Hello, my name is Dr. Tina Ray, and today I want to share with you a presentation which is all about creating calm corners and safe spaces. You can see from this illustration that I'm talking about something that we can create both in the home and in the school context. So in either place, we can be thinking about how we create a sense of calm and a space in which children and young people can go to in order to remain calm and find their calm again once they've become dysregulated. So many of my resources you will find with Hinton House Publishers, and you'll probably be aware of this if you've been following me or have looked at some of my other presentations on my YouTube channel. Why I want to present this particular topic today is because I'm very conscious of the fact that we still, 2 years in near enough, are navigating our way through a COVID pandemic. And many of our children are continuing to experience deep losses, and some of them are coming through this quite reasonably well in terms of actually engaging with post-traumatic growth and ensuring that their mental health is okay because they've got a huge amount of support systems around them that are really effective. But others are really still feeling the pain of these losses, particularly loss of opportunity, friendships, connections, loss of learning. And mainly, I think, from my perspective, the loss of significant adults in their lives, primarily in the school context, who can provide the safe base, the nurture, the care, and the opportunities to co-regulate that these children and young people need. So this loss of calm and self-regulation for many is something that remains ongoing because, of course, notwithstanding the fact that there seems to be some positive developments currently in terms of the level of infection. This is not quite the case for our children and young people, and we are increasingly seeing more COVID in schools, and children are experiencing time out of school yet again, transitioning in and out. Their teachers are off sick, etc., etc. So this is an ongoing period of uncertainty and trauma for many. What we know about trauma is a great deal now from the neuroscience, and a great deal of research has been done, obviously, in this particular area by psychologists and others. But what we know, I think, primarily is that we're not all affected in the same way. We know that this is a continuum. And some of our children and young people, as I said, will have had a great deal of buffering around them, social buffering, financial buffering, emotional buffering, that has enabled them to navigate this more successfully and with less damage overall to their mental health and emotional well-being. So that kind of resilience, protection around them has led to a less significant level of harm. And I think that we need to kind of get this into our heads a wee bit and understand this as a fact, that there is this continuum. Not all of our children are going to be scarred in the same way or to the same extent. However, for most of us, there will be a residual level of anxiety that is left from this whole experience ongoing, going forwards. And for many of our children and young people, this will not actually become apparent until maybe another year or 2 or 3 or more years down the line. So we're going to have to be very conscious and watchful of all of this. What we really need to do now is ensure that our children have opportunities on a regular basis in and out of school in order to continue to develop their skills and competencies in this area of resiliency, because it's so essential that they can do this, that they can actually manage their anxieties, their fears, their worries, their concerns on a daily basis going forward. What I think we can all do, and I know that many of my colleagues in the primary infant sector, early years, have been doing this for many years, is to create what I call a safe space in calm corners, in classrooms, in specific areas in our schools. And I think this is a really helpful mechanism, a helpful structure, a helpful system for us to get into our schools currently. A special place of safety where we can give children and young people those opportunities to stay calm, to re-find their calm again once they've lost it, perhaps. And I think ultimately what this will be able to do is ensure that they can develop their self-awareness, their awareness of their feelings, their thinking patterns, their behaviours. They can become and remain more adaptable and flexible and become independent, more independent in using these skills and tools for self-regulation themselves. I also think that currently I'm seeing far more children and young people, sadly, who have lost parents, carers, grandparents in particular, to COVID. So there is a huge gap in terms of resources in schools for those children in terms of supporting them through the grief and loss process ongoing. And I think this is going to become a huge issue in the future for many, a significant minority, I should say. But I think this space can provide something special for them too, in terms of actually giving them that space in which to experience, to process and to explore those feelings and emotions that can seem hugely overwhelming. How can trauma affect the way in which we respond? Okay, very important. We have this window of tolerance. And when we're in this window of tolerance, we feel that we can deal with whatever's happening. So we have this sense, what I call a balance. We might feel a wee bit stressed, but we know deep down that we can cope with that, okay? And I think the problem here is that when the stress and trauma shrink this window of tolerance for us, it really doesn't take too much to throw us off balance, okay? And we can either go into this hyper arousal state where we're really anxious, angry, or seemingly out of control. We're overwhelmed. Our body just wants to fight or basically run away. Or else we would go into what I call hypo arousal, where we just appear to be zoned out, we're spaced out, we're not with it, we're not connecting with anyone, we just go into shutdown mode. And what I hope that the safe space or the calm corner can do is provide a base in which children and young people can make use of tools that are pertinent to whichever state they are in, so that they can maintain and go back into that window of tolerance, they can re-find it. And it may be that they also will need, and some will, that additional support from a therapeutic practitioner or a therapeutic adult in the context in order to help them expand that window of tolerance, so they're more able on an ongoing basis to cope with and to manage those challenges. In my book, there are two types of intervention that we can all make use of to support children or young people return to their window of tolerance, and in both the calm corner and in the context of the classroom. So in essence, these are process interventions, okay? These are when children can develop their self-awareness and greater levels of adaptability, flexibility and independence. These are process intervention. We can teach these skills to our children, young people, and model them as long as we have them ourselves. We can only model this stuff if we're doing it for ourselves too. We can do that within the context of this calm corner. And that means things like grounding, breathing techniques, mindfulness, CBT resources and techniques, etc. We can model, we can co-regulate with them in that calm corner. We can also give them external supports and strategies. It might be that we adapt the classroom to make it trauma sensitive, okay? So sensory accommodations, building in predictability routines, the same thing going on, visual timetables, the structures, etc. Or ultimately providing key worker support as and when it's necessary. And those are called compensation interventions. And we can ensure both of these, process and compensations, can be part of the calm corner intervention, okay, so that we can use either or both simultaneously, depending on the needs and the requirements of that individual child or young person. So I'm just going to go through 5 keys to setting up this calm corner or safe space, so that you can reflect on this and think about how, or if you're going to do this for yourself in your own context. It's really important in terms of location. Really need to think about where you're going to set this up. For some of our smaller classrooms, our smaller schools, it's quite easy to have that wee IKEA tent in the corner. You can actually go in and out of that. You can make sure that all the toys, etc., everything that you need is in that little base. In other institutions, bigger places, it may be that you have a nurture base, you have a special room that you can actually accommodate this in. That's a luxury, I know, for many, but very important just to find that dedicated space. As long as it has enough room for a small chair or bean bags, possibly a little table. I think that can be really, really enough, actually. It just needs to be semi-private, but children and young people need to access it quite easily, relatively easily. Key 2 is the furniture. It's another key factor in creating this calm down or safe space corner. And the size obviously is going to just, determine, I suppose, what you can include in here, but you must have an adequate seating area. And you can see one that's more kind of relevant to key stage 3, 4 in the top left-hand corner there, and then the little tent in the middle there for the younger children. But having a small desk or table with maybe some music or headphones or some space to do some reflection activities, which can be photocopied or laminated, etc., that can be very, very helpful as well. Then, of course, key 3, meaningful visuals. This is essential, and there is so much stuff out there. You can just download from the internet, go to Pinterest or wherever. There is tons and tons of stuff. I mean, obviously, you can buy things professionally made and source those too. But a poster with breathing techniques, absolutely crucial. A poster asking them to rate their emotional temperature with a temperature chart, thermometer. Where am I on this scale? Why am I here? What do I need to get up or down on this scale? Resources with strategies for problem solving in a stepped way. So formats for that you can photocopy and leave packs within the calm corner, and key resources and strategies such as mindfulness techniques, visualization, calming places, grounding of my feet on the floor, etc. So just having the resources there available so that the child or young person can make use of the ones that are suitable to them. So we're making it more bespoke, more individualized. I mean, these could be things like the 5-finger breathing for younger children, just having a picture of that on the wall so that they could actually have a go at doing that when they get in there. The square breathing, the worry eaters. Calm down tools, again, very, very useful. It's not really complete without these sensory tactile tools that they can use themselves to regulate their emotions and return to that window of tolerance. So you might have a glitter jar, puff a squeeze ball, expandable ball, sensory sticks, Play-Doh, timer, kinetic sand, etc. Whatever suits the individual child or young people. And it might be when you're creating this that you talk to the class about it, or the group or the form group, and decide on what you think might work. What is it that actually people are using themselves and what might be beneficial to have in there? Because it will be different for each group or each individual. Teaching them about the calm corner, again, an absolute essential. All the children and young people will need to be taught about this corner and how to use it so that they use it appropriately. This is not time out. It is not a punishment. It is not somewhere where you go to get rid of you from the rest of the class because you are being really, really hyper. This is not the naughty corner. This is not the sin bin, whatever people want to call these places that I think many behaviourists in the old days may have used. This is somewhere where we go to regulate. This is somewhere where we go to regain our sense of calm and equilibrium, and it needs to be actually explained very clearly to the children and young people that that's what this is for, what it helps us to do, and also what the resources are, what is there, what's available, how do we use each one. Let's spend some time in the circle talking about these tools. Let's practice them. Let's see what works for you best as an individual. Very, very important to spend the time doing this stuff. So I hope this has been useful, and I hope this makes you think about and reflect upon the fact that it's not that difficult to set this up, this intervention. And it's something that I think at this current time could be very, very useful, very helpful for many of our children and young people. So please think about it. And if you're thinking about resources that you want to actually place in that corner alongside the physical sensory tools, please look no further than the Toolbox of Wellbeing series from Hinton. There are obviously lots of other things out there, but I know from the feedback that we've had that many of these tools and resources are really working, very, very user-friendly and practical. So think about what you do now, what works for you, maybe what you could do a wee bit more of, and how you could develop this in your own context. How are you going to set up your own calm corner or safe space? So thank you very much for listening, and I hope that you find this useful.